Hello, thanks for joining me. I'm Martin Savage, in for Frederica Whitfield. We're following breaking news. There's been a major shakeup at one of the country's most powerful lobbying groups. I'm talking about the National Rifle Association. Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North says that he has been told he won't be renominated the organization's president. North was reportedly locked in a power struggle with the longtime CEO Wayne LaPierre. Polo Sandoval's been following developments for us from New York. Polo, what exactly is Oliver North saying?
All of this playing out this morning at the NRA's annual convention, Martin. This morning, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North requesting that a letter that he wrote be read out loud by a high-ranking NRA official, in which, as you point out, makes that announcement that he has been informed that he will not be renominated to serve as the group's president. We should note that he was just recently appointed, just last year, to this post. I want to read you a small portion of the letter as a potential outgoing NRA president, Oliver North, was read out loud to various members of the NRA. He specifically writes that there is a clear crisis that needs to be dealt with immediately and responsibly so the NRA can continue to focus on protecting our Second Amendment. I've been on the NRA board for more than 2 decades. It was a great privilege to serve as your president this past year, and honor second only to serving our country as a U.S. Marine in combat. And of course, it goes on to lay out more details here. That particular crisis that he's referring to, it's important to talk a little bit more about that here, Martin. According to Stone, he felt that there was a financial crisis, a financial mismanagement at very high levels of the organization. And in that letter, he also writes that there's been various reporting by reliable news outlets and newspaper, the New York Times, the New Yorker as well, that spell out allegations about that financial mismanagement. And according to Lieutenant Colonel North, that this could potentially threaten the nonprofit status of the NRA. If that does happen, that would be significant. But at this point, again, this is just laid out in this letter. And as you mentioned, this all goes back to this ongoing tension and disagreement between Oliver North and Wayne LaPierre, the executive, who will remain in place. And this morning, after seeing some of the reporting from folks at that conference, it certainly was a tense moment. However, at this point, it seems that Lieutenant Colonel North will be on his way out, and Wayne LaPierre, who you see there, will remain.
Yeah, really remarkable. You seldom hear of tension or controversy within the NRA. It's usually surrounding it. All right, Polo Sandoval, thanks very much for bringing us up to date.
Thanks, Martin.
They've ultimately created
powerful lobbying groups, the National Rifle Association. Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North says that he has been told he won't be renominated as the organization's president. This follows reports that North was reportedly locked in a power struggle with longtime CEO Wayne LaPierre. Ryan Young joins me now with the latest. And Ryan, what exactly is Oliver North saying about this?
Well, yes, Martin, there's some real drama playing out with the NRA convention. Oliver North has been asked to step down. It seems there's a fight over how money has been potentially mismanaged. This internal power struggle over funds has boiled over within the organization, leading to North being told he was no longer wanted. So today, Oliver North stepped down after about a year on the job. But before going, North wanted to have a letter that he wrote read out loud. The letter, which we have a copy of in part, reads, "There is a clear crisis. It needs to be dealt with immediately and responsibly so the NRA can continue to focus on protecting our Second Amendment. I've been on the NRA board for more than 2 decades. It was a great privilege to serve as president this past year, an honor only second to serving our country." So obviously, you see, he didn't necessarily want to leave, but it looks like he's going to have to leave. One thing that he did sort of point out here, he believes the funds being mismanaged could put their nonprofit status in jeopardy, which we know that's a huge deal.
Oliver North is still considered a hero by many people, and now to see him sort of shown the exit, this isn't the last we're going to hear of it.
No, and I'm sure the power struggle will play out, especially because you know there are members who probably won't like the way this played out today.
All right, Ryan Young, we'll continue to follow it with you. Thanks. I want to bring in Mike Spees. He joins us now on the telephone. He's written about the NRA for The New Yorker and is a staff writer for The Trace, which is a news organization dedicated to looking at gun violence. Tell us first, because this seemed, for those of us who may not so intently follow the NRA, what are the roots of this power struggle? This seemed to have just come out of nowhere.
Well, it didn't. I mean, yes, it seems to have come out of nowhere in the public, but it's been playing out for the last year behind the scenes. Basically, things came to a head over the summer, around the time that the organization held an audit committee meeting, and a lot of things came to light that had been previously hidden from the organization and its most important board members that sort of conduct financial oversight. And that basically involved a vast number of problematic financial arrangements. Chief among them was the most long-standing one with Ackerman McQueen, the PR firm that is responsible for the vast majority of the NRA's messaging and also, by the way, pays Oliver North.
So when I was reading about this, I was wondering, where was the NRA board going to come down? On whose side? Now, it appears pretty obvious the board must have come down on the side of LaPierre, right?
Yes, they've sided with Wayne. It's sort of fascinating what's happened because, I mean, it should be known to everybody that Wayne LaPierre's relationship with Ackerman McQueen goes back to 1991 when he rose to the NRA's top post. He's relied on them extensively. They've ultimately created his public image. So the fact that all of a sudden he's now turned on them ultimately to save himself is a huge, huge deal. It's a remarkable turn of events. It's not. No one would have ever, any insider would have told you that no one would have ever imagined that this day would have ever come. But right now he's in survival mode, and Oliver North also is in survival mode. Most people at the top of the organization, though not everybody, have in some way or other contributed to this mess. Mm-hmm. And right now it's kind of like, as a friend of mine said, it's kind of like Game of Thrones, and they're all just trying to be the one to outlast the other.
You know, those I know who are fans of the NRA are also fans of Oliver North. Not all, but there are many who do consider him a hero because of how he served in the Reagan administration and the Contra movement there. What is likely the fallout to be of his departure? In other words, could it divide membership? Yes,
I think it absolutely could divide members. I mean, he's a hero. I mean, before he became board president, he was always among the most popular board members. The membership reveres him. I mean, he's also revered within the organization and the conservative movement in general. And I think there's going to be a ton of anger. And that's on top of what members have now discovered, which is that, you know, all this financial mismanagement, the self-dealing, the sweetheart deals, these gratuitous contracts, they're all finally, you know, it's all spilling out into the open. And I think it'll be very obvious to a lot of them that this was not really decisive action so much as just a power play.
I believe the NRA was already having issues when it came to membership, and this is only likely to exacerbate it. Play this forward. I mean, how bad could this be for the NRA?
I mean, the worst case scenario, and I think that one of the things the organization fears the most, in addition to losing its nonprofit status or getting its charter yanked, which is possible, it's just a massive member-based class action lawsuit. The vast majority of the NRA's funds come from its members, you know, dues, that sort of thing. They're not very good at cultivating big donors. So they do have standing to sue, and they, I'm sure, as they're learning about all the details of all these various business arrangements and what it's cost them, they probably are going to start to feel cheated and that their money has been misspent and ultimately, not entirely, but in plenty of instances has just essentially enriched a small group of people and contractors.
Wow. This was not the convention they thought it was going to be, at least for the conventioneers that showed up for it. All right, Mike Spies, Thank you very much for joining us today and for your insights. Appreciate it. Still ahead, President Trump not backing down and not apologizing about his response to the white supremacist rally in Charlottesville. We'll talk with a University of Virginia professor who saw the march firsthand and what he thinks of the president's new defense. That'll be next.